Hey guys, Jacqueline Fernandez here at the Alert Center. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Today we are chatting with Brian Ortner from AAA to talk a little bit about a new report that was just released by AAA about dark city roads being the deadliest for pedestrians at night. And while that may just kind of sound like you can't see as much, there's a lot more into this research than you might think. So these fatalities, for example, occur disproportionately in socially and economically disadvantaged neighborhoods. So that was kind of a big takeaway for me, but Brian's joining us now and he has a lot more on this topic to share with us. So I'll introduce him real quick here. Hey Brian, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, no problem, Jacqueline. Happy Friday to you. Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day, indeed. Okay, so we're chatting about this new report,
hmm
and unfortunately, I guess just from the reading that you sent over my way, I mean, we were at a historic low in 2009, and then things have just kind of skyrocketed since then. Can you speak to that
They
for
have.
us?
Yeah, since 2009, pedestrian deaths have increased by over 80%, and that's in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Um, it's a staggering number for a lot of reasons. One, a lot of those deaths are more than likely preventable, and it's a good wake up call about distractions while driving. That it's a focus that needs to be addressed.
Sure, definitely. And as we were discussing, well, before we press the live button here, there's a story that we're working on. We have it up on the web at firstalert6.com, but this is about new for us today. A man accused in a fatal South Omaha hit and run has been sentenced to prison. So now this hit and run crash happened during the daylight hours, but still, I mean, distracted driving, this speaks to that part of the story for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And this study does focus on the nighttime as a focus because the numbers are higher. But as we said, during the daytime, this is still a critical issue for a lot of reasons. One is with the distractions, and there's things people can do as a driver or as a pedestrian, which hopefully would increase the safety. As a driver, you want to minimize risky behaviors. You don't want to be speeding, texting while driving, driving under the influence of um, alcohol, drugs, prescription drugs. Those increasingly significant. They increase the risk of a crash. Don't rely on your pedestrian detection systems.
Hmm.
They're a great backup. They're not the most reliable thing, but they're a great backup. And we hit on night. Drive with extra caution at night because when you don't have daylight or a well-lit area, it does cause visual issues. And as a
Right.
pedestrian, you want to be visible. Use sidewalks and crosswalks, always obey traffic signals. And obviously, this study shows that in some areas, sidewalks aren't available.
Right.
So that can lead to the issue of these fatal crashes or serious injury crashes that happen with pedestrians and vehicles.
Yeah, and these are in these disadvantaged neighborhoods that we were chatting about. So, a lot of people in those neighborhoods rely on walking as their main form of transportation to access their job or school or whatever they may have to walk to. And these areas from the study outline, these are poorly lit areas typically, poor or no sidewalks, as you mentioned, and long distances between safe places to cross. So I'm assuming a safe place would be a well-lit area with a crosswalk at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And other factors, the amount of traffic,
Right.
you look at these arterial roads, the ones that connect neighborhoods, businesses, highways, lots of traffic, fewer stops. These roads typically have lights at widely spaced intersections instead of stop signs, and that keeps traffic flowing, which is great to avoid traffic backup, but it limits the availability of safe and accessible crossing areas, multiple lanes. And and as you said, it's just the areas that don't have the sidewalk, um, or that are dark, and it's affecting people whose main mode of transportation. If they're using public transit, they have to walk to a bus stop. If they're walking to school or walking to work,
Yeah.
these crashes. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things to go along with it. I mean, we could talk for a long time, and maybe
Right.
we will, about this. It's not just at night. These numbers show the record at night, the record in these, um, so economically disadvantaged neighborhoods or socially disadvantaged neighborhoods. But it's an issue that happens everywhere. So that it covers all gamuts for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So this kind of outlines this in-depth crash analysis that we're chatting about. This has some case studies there, key findings. I'll leave this as a web extra for folks. Also, you've made it really easy for us to find this full report. If you want to download the full report, here it is on your screen right now, and you can read the whole thing, right? So how many pages is this report? It looks like 79 pages. So if you want to get, into the nitty gritty there, you definitely can.
Absolutely.
And then just a few other things wanted to highlight. Foundation for Traffic Safety, part of AAA, a safe system guide for transportation, some successful examples from different communities. So we have Menlo Park, California, been there a lot, Madison, Wisconsin, mid-sized urban community, very similar to the Omaha size area here. So, there are communities that are successfully implementing these systems. And then, Brian, as you mentioned, and maybe we can just chat about this again briefly, but these pedestrian detection systems, okay, we're relying more on our cars to alert us if there's someone in the way or something along those lines. We shouldn't really be doing that. And, we talk about self-driving cars and, with the advent of AI and how people are trying to implement that, et cetera. Talk with us a little bit about how, we still have to do our due diligence behind the wheel.
Absolutely. I mean, the pedestrian detection systems, the rear backup cameras, all the tools that cars are coming out with, those are tools to enhance driver safety. Great. There is no argument that they aren't used, they aren't needed, but they're just a tool. They shouldn't be relied upon 100%. You know, taking that extra look around as we're taught in driver ed classes, you know, and in different areas is, utilize the tools that are at your disposal and still use your eyes to make sure you're in a safe area. You're not seeing pedestrians walk by. You're not seeing other vehicles walk by, and you'd kind of mentioned the safe system approach, and
Right.
this incorporates that, using the tools, and those sorts of things. So the nice thing in Omaha, there is a program, the Vision Zero program, or Vision Zero Omaha, has been implemented, approved by the city council, is in full working order. And the safe system approach focuses on just that, that death and serious injuries are unacceptable. It prioritizes the elimination of crashes that result in death and serious injuries. It acknowledges that humans make mistakes. It acknowledges that humans are vulnerable, um, and that the responsibility is shared among all people, government, individuals, nonprofit advocacy researchers, so many folks. And you talked about the tools that are on our car. Safety is proactive, so proactive
Right.
tools should be used to identify and address safety issues, but they are a tool, to help us avoid those crashes, and safer people, safer roads, safer vehicles, safer speeds, all fall in to what a safe system approach is. It sounds easy,
Hmm.
but it does take some work.
Right. Right.
One big component of safe systems are roundabouts, and I've experienced roundabouts. You have. We haven't learned how to adjust to those yet, so they frustrate us. But that simple introduction of a traffic calming device has reduced crashes and accidents. So things like that do work when it comes to safer roadways, safer pedestrian access, and reduced crashes.
And then, Brian, you were chatting earlier about an updated bill in the state legislature. Can you kind of give us more details about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Senator Prokop from Lincoln introduced bill. I want to say it's LB 594. If I don't have that number right, look up Senator Prokop to be sure, but I'm pretty sure it's 594.
Okay.
It is the hands-free bill for Nebraska. And there was a similar bill introduced last year. It's being reintroduced this year with some updated language. And what that does is it makes using a handheld mobile device a priority offense in Nebraska. You know, Mobile devices are one of the larger causes of distraction when it comes to drivers on the road. Right now in Nebraska, it's not a primary offense, um, and this bill would hopefully make that a primary offense. And this just not it does not include just texting. It would include any manual manipulation of a handheld device. Um, so it's encouraging hands-free usage in cars. It's a bill that's been introduced. It's going up for a committee hearing on February 24th. So take a look at the legislative site. If you want to make a comment, you can do that online via the legislator's website. If you want to testify in person, I'm sure Senator Prokop would be happy to have folks coming down and share their viewpoints on why
Sure.
this bill is important to pass here in Nebraska.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. Very informative today. Brian, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Nice to see you. Happy Valentine's Day. And,
Yeah.
stay warm out there if you can. I guess today is like our hot day at a whopping 32, give or take, but we'll get into the weather in
Yeah.
a second here. So,
It's a heat wave compared to one, right?
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Thank you so much. Happy Valentine's Day to you as well.
All right. Thank you. We'll be seeing you.
Take care.
All right, guys, if you are just joining us here at the Alert Center, we were just chatting with Brian Ortner with AAA. There's a new report that they just released about dark city roads are the deadliest for pedestrians at night. And while that kind of may seem obvious at first glance, when you kind of go through this report, there's really a lot of details that go into that. But do want to chat a little bit about your weather, right? So today is the heat wave, if you will, which is always a bit terrifying when the heat wave is clocking in at 32 degrees for the high today. So let's take a live look outside from our Blackstone camera here real quick. You can see the snow on the roads there, not literally on the roads, thankfully. It has melted in some areas with this heat wave we're experiencing today. But Senior Chief Meteorologist Rusty Lord says today we can expect cloudy, windy, and again, slightly warmer conditions. A 30% chance of a midday light mix. So I guess some of you may have been seeing some freezing rain out there. Not everybody, thankfully. And it is a bit windy, to emphasize that point. Let's take a live look from our first national camera here, bouncing around in the wind as we take a look at the Desert Dome. Yeah, my gosh, it is bouncing around a lot out there, kind of making me sick. So we're gonna do a different live shot now. Here's a look from 90th and Dodge. As we look at this, it appears that traffic is just fine. It looks like during the noon hour there are more cars on the road than we would see around like 10 a.m. or so. But yeah, it is the lunch hour, so everybody pack your patience on those roads. There are still slick spots out there. And just from my experience, I mean, today we've got that scorcher at 32 degrees, but when it gets colder out there, right? Beware of that black ice that could develop in some areas and cause accidents. Rusty does say tonight we can expect an 80% chance of mix to snow after midnight, a low of 26. And then Saturday, ding, 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 that's the first Alert 6 weather day for you. An 80% chance of snow before noon with 1 to 3 inches with some heavier east. So something to take note of there. A high of 26 early on and then falling from there. So another one of these fun weekend days we have in store for you. Sunday, mostly cloudy and breezy, a high of 8, gusts up to 25 miles per hour. And then as we enter the work week, Rusty tells us at this point it is looking like another round of snow will move in on Monday morning. So this is something to take note of. And so he is making Monday a First Alert 6 weather day as well. So he does say this snow could linger for most of the day with plenty of snow accumulation out there. I don't have the exact inches or totals at this point, but he says the coldest air of the season so far, emphasis on so far, nerve-wracking, right? Will pour behind it as well. So it's going to be kind of cold and miserable for the next few days after today, after Friday. So Valentine's Day, hopefully you're enjoying it with someone you love, and if not, hopefully you're celebrating Singles Awareness Day. You're going out, you're going to meet the love of your life, or also a good time for self-care. We do have that story coming up in our 4 p.m. broadcast as well. So don't forget to love yourself. It's an important little fun fact for you today. All right, well, thanks again for joining us at the Alert Center this afternoon. Make sure you do stay tuned for our broadcast at 3 o'clock with Dave Zavolinsky. Until then, have a wonderful Friday and an even better weekend.